All right, good morning, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the day. Just sitting out here with my cup of coffee. It's about 9 o'clock or so right now, 9:30, somewhere around in there. Um, Kind of what I wanted to make this video about was I'm gonna make some series of videos looking at different countries and how socialism works. And that is kind of one of my goals here too, is I kind of want to find out what are people thinking here in the US when it comes to socialism. What are they thinking that switching to that form of government is going to do? What's it going to solve? Um, I think that the narrative that's being pushed by the democratic socialists, other politicians, being pushed by media and things like that, is that socialism is the answer to all of our problems. If we switch to socialism, it's going to be rainbows, gumdrops, lollipops, and unicorns, and we're never going to have to worry about anything again. And I feel like that's the narrative that's being pushed. Um, and that is not true. If you look at socialism, examine other socialist countries, um, and really kind of watch a lot of videos of people that live in these countries, uh, it socialism is not the answer to all the problems. All governments have problems. We capitalism, we have a problem. Socialism, they have a problem. There is no perfect form of government. They all have problems. Um, but I do believe that capitalism is a more healthy form of government, especially for the freedom of the people overall. So that's kind of what I want to do here, is make a bunch of these videos about different countries and sort of look at some of this stuff and find out what the reality uh, of it is. So I'm going to start off here with Denmark. I think that's the Scandinavian countries. I get the impression that those are the ones that everybody looks at and says, "Oh man, look how great it is there." Um, and so we're going to look at Denmark first because I feel like that's the number one thing that people are looking at. Oh, look at the free healthcare. Look at the free education system there. I mean, that's great. Um, First off, uh, no matter what form of socialism is, nothing's free. Okay. The healthcare in Denmark and the education system in Denmark is not free. Someone pays for those, and it's the taxpayers, it's the citizens there. They pay for it through a higher tax rate. And that tax rate, unlike in the US, is not based on what you earn, it's based on what is needed to support those welfare programs. Um, so, so to start off, Denmark is not a socialist country. Um, they have a heavy welfare system and they have some socialist principles and they embrace capitalism as well. It's a mixed form of system that they have, but they are not socialist. Denmark is not a socialist country. Um, so here in the US, right, this is what we have. This is a capitalist system, but we have some socialist programs. We have social programs in place here. Um, so Denmark is not a true socialist society, and Denmark has problems just like us. So Denmark supports ideas like heavy welfare state. They support ideas like free markets and capitalist principles, um, and they support social democracy. A lot of the same things there that we have in the U.S. Um, and we have those because the U.S. is not a socialist system, and neither is Denmark. Um, so the next thing I kind of wanted to look at here was the Denmark, the model there of government supports the free markets, just like the model of government here. It supports the free market. because without free markets, it is bad for your society. It is bad for the freedom of people. Um, so they know that just as we do. So they embrace free markets. So do we. Um, so I want to look at the taxes for Denmark. So from what I found out, so Denmark, the people there in Denmark pay the highest tax rate in Europe. Um, the people in Denmark usually pay up to 56% in taxes. So, as opposed to the US, where we pay up to 37% in taxes. So, the tax bracket system works a bit differently. So, in the US, the tax system is based on what you earn, and it's usually a 10 to 37% is your taxes here. Um, and in Denmark, the taxes there are based on what is needed to support a heavy welfare state and support some heavy socialist things that they have in place, like healthcare and education. But that is not free because in Denmark, the tax rate for individuals in Denmark is usually 50 to 55%. Um, a massive jump in the tax rate in Denmark. So all that stuff you think is free, it is not free. The people are paying for that. It's free for the people that don't want to work and don't want to pay into that system. They're getting a really good deal because everybody that works and makes money, they have to support the lifestyle of everybody else that does not want to work. So, um, again, that is not perfect there. That is for sure. Um, and then I look at I look in general here. Let's just take in the U.S. tax here. People say rich people don't pay enough. You know that's the problem. If rich people only paid more money, that would solve all of our problems in the U.S. Is the narrative that's being pushed by democratic socialists and others like Bernie Sanders and stuff like that. So I just looked up. So in 2023, the top 5% of earners in the US paid 1.2 trillion in taxes. Is that enough? I don't know. Sounds to me like they're paying quite a bit in taxes. Um, and then the next thing I wanted to look at too was the challenges. Here in the US, we know the challenges of everyday life here and how expensive some things can be. So I looked up what the challenges of living in Denmark are. And I found kind of two of the same answers that were the most popular that kept coming up over and over again. And the number one challenge of living in Denmark is the extremely high cost of living that they face there in Denmark. That was the number one challenge that I found for people. Um, and then the second challenge is just navigating the sort of insane amount of bureaucracy that's in Denmark. I mean, it sounds like, from what I gathered, things do not get done there unless you completely hound over and over again at these agencies to get things pushed through. So it sounds like in Denmark they have a ton of bureaucracy, an extremely high cost of living. Um, and they pay really high tax rates there. So, you know, it sounds to me like they have a lot of the same kind of issues there that we have in the US, right? I mean, there's a ton of bureaucrats here that slow everything down. It's extremely expensive to live. Um, so, Denmark faces the same problems that we face in the US. Denmark is not a socialist country. They embrace that heavy welfare state of socialism, but they also embrace the free markets and capitalism. So uh, Denmark does not have all the answers. The world is not all rainbows, gumdrops, lollipops, and unicorns in Denmark and for the people there. They suffer with everyday problems that we suffer with in the US. So switching over to what Denmark has is not the answer either. It's a way to go. It's not the answer to solving all of our problems, though. So that's kind of what I wanted to look at there. I think in the U.S., the way to solve our problems is to actually get capitalism back in functioning to what it's meant to be. There's too much interference from the government in capitalism, and capitalism cannot work like it's supposed to be. That's sort of my take on it. And in another video, I'll look at another country and we'll talk about that. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.